COVID remains a clear danger to our health and life. We must all take this thing seriously and do what is required to get the virus under control. That means wearing the mask, keeping your distance from others, washing your hands regularly, sanitizing, and get vaccinated. Don't wait until situations reach the worst and then say, if I had known. Welcome. It's another Saturday and we continue to keep you informed through this half-hour journey inside Jamaica Magazine. I'm your host, Adrian Atkinson. Take your seat. We'll continue to roll through the pages, starting with this important message.
The following is brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
Our children have been out of school for a year and a half. The impact on their education is significant and it will be long-lasting. As a responsible government, we cannot place the education of your children, our children, at risk. There is a ray of hope, and that hope comes in the form of the vaccine.
The proceeding was brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
The existing risk from COVID-19 and low vaccine take-up has forced the government to again forego face-to-face classes for all children who continue to pursue a mix of learning modalities in this new paradigm. For parents and guardians who are considering supporting their children's education through other avenues such as homeschooling, here's a feature for you.
On March 10, 2020, Jamaica received an unwelcomed visitor, the novel coronavirus COVID-19. Just as its arrival was unwanted, so has been its lingering presence. Its refusal to leave means our daily operations have changed. Mask wearing, social distancing, and online learning are among the new normal. Due to the threats posed by the virus, more and more parents and guardians are resorting to homeschooling their children so that learning can continue in a safe environment. Whether you are planning to temporarily or permanently undertake homeschooling this year, this feature is for you.
Homeschooling, wow, it is what you make it in a sense, because there is no strict definition really. It is simply a matter of the parent or guardian of the child being homeschooled, taking full control of the schooling, the education of the child. So that may take place in the home physically. It can be anywhere where the parent or guardian has control, but it's really you, the guardian, the parent, managing the education experience for the child.
Every parent or guardian who wishes to homeschool their child in Jamaica must be guided by the standards provided by the Ministry of Education through the Independent Schools Unit.
The Independent Schools Unit in the Ministry of Education has a mandate of registering and monitoring, regulating independent schools, and independent schools are privately owned institutions. We serve institutions that cater to private education for students who are based on the Education Act and the Independent Schools Regulation between age 8 to 19 years old.
In order to start your homeschooling registration, there are a number of requirements to be met.
We invite them to submit to us a completed application, and that is an application customized in the unit based on the regulations of the Independent Schools Unit. But in addition to that, we also ask them to submit to us photographs of the students. We ask them for birth certificate for the students, national identification cards for the parents, just to ensure that the persons who say that they are the parents of the students are indeed the parents of the students. We also ask them to submit to us the qualifications for the individuals who are going to be the tutor, just to ensure that these persons who are going to be tutoring the students are fit and proper to do so and are indeed qualified to do so. We also invite them to submit to us the timetable, because we want to ensure that though we do not have them give us what we call strict structure, we want to ensure that at least the basic requirements based on the curriculum to which the parents are subscribing to are adhered to, and recommendations for the parents who want to get approval for the homeschool.
Once the application form and supporting documents have been submitted to the ministry's regional offices, or emailed to isu@moey.gov.jm, parents will then be required to participate in an interview that will take place at a mutually convenient day and time for both the parent and interviewer.
All right, so as we would have planned, we are here to do your interview so that we can grant you the approval for homeschooling. All right? For the time being, it is virtual because, as you know, we have to maintain the COVID protocols. So we do a virtual interview. And in this interview, we try to do cameras on so that we can get to have a look on the learning space and have a real appreciation of the learning space. We also ask them information regarding the tutoring of the students, the individuals who would be responsible, because we want to ensure that what the students will be exposed to, it would be tantamount to the standards that are maintained in the public system.
If the parent or guardian satisfy the requirements of the interview, the unit will then provide them with a letter granting approval to homeschool their child. If the child was already registered at a private or public school, the parent must write to that institution's Board of Management to indicate that the child has been approved for homeschooling and to request that his or her registration at the school be retained. But even before you do all of this, there are a few things you'll need to know. First, while homeschooling has numerous benefits, there can certainly be drawbacks.
There are many benefits to homeschooling. Definitely, economically, it is much cheaper. And you can design this educational experience to suit your family's needs, which is another benefit as well. You're not bound to the requirements, the objectives of any other body, any other group. Another benefit is simply just the ability to be more flexible, to, when we have classes, when we have other activities, is really up to the family, and the family therefore takes charge of how it spends its time, and that empowers the family in more than one ways. And you'll find that the children actually, because they're in a more fluid space, life can be organized in a way that is best suited to the child's psychological and emotional needs. Some children prefer learning in the evening, some children prefer early morning, and so you can tailor your educational experience to suit the child's needs. Some of the limitations, persons may not be aware of the resources that are out there available to them. Parents, guardians may not feel that they can manage the education program. They may feel overwhelmed. There might be challenges for example, in my personal circumstance where I have children at varying age groups. There is a challenge in a sense to split myself up to ensure that everybody is given the appropriate amount of educational time. So that's a challenge. Another challenge is in relation to the parents who themselves may have other functions that they have to perform in society, whether it be professionally or otherwise. It sometimes can be taxing to manage all the different things that go into preparing for the child's education, administering the educational program, and balancing that with their own personal development.
If you are still sure that you want to embark on the journey of homeschooling, there are a few other things you need to tick off your checklist. But don't worry, here's how the Independent Schools Unit is helping you do that.
We, from time to time, provide sessions for our parents who are homeschooling their students, because we want to ensure that the students are given educational opportunities that are deemed to be of very high standards. And so we encourage parents to ensure that there's a quiet space, a space that is secluded for learning. Based on what the literature is saying to us, if the space is organized, then more likely the learning opportunities will be optimized in these spaces. They can endorse the space with probably a plant or some kind of a natural feature like a fish tank or something like that. And we encourage parents to have the children just be in a state of readiness for engaging in the teaching episodes. And we encourage them to have simple desks and a chair so that the children are comfortable. As it relates to the curriculum, most of our homeschool parents subscribe to the national standard curriculum that is used in the parallel system, in the public system. And so all the requirements for the national standards curriculum are expected of a parent who is homeschooling. So for example, our curriculum will expose students to information technology. We encourage parents to, as much as possible, to incorporate this in the learning experience.
For any additional homeschooling advice and support, parents and guardians may reach out to the homeschooling associations across the island, such as the Jamaica Association of Homeschoolers.
The Jamaica Association of Homeschoolers is simply a group of parents, guardians, stakeholders within the homeschool setting who have decided that, we want to come together to enhance the homeschool experience for all of us. So we cater to the educational, social, and even the psychological needs of not just the children, but the parents, the adults involved in the process. So that could involve providing emotional support, literally, financial support, where needs be. So it is really a community, a close-knit community. And we also provide social support. So we organize activities for the families. It's all voluntary.
A homeschool policy is currently being developed by government that is to be reviewed by the Ministry of Education's legal team in short order. Once it is completed, this policy will be shared with all current and prospective homeschoolers. In the interim, for more information on homeschooling, feel free to contact the Independent Schools Unit or the Jamaica Association of Homeschoolers.
Individuals who need to contact the Independent Schools Unit, they can do so by telephone at 876-612-5708, or they can email us at isu@moey.gov.jm.
Our email address is jamaicahomeschoolers@gmail.com, simple. And you can reach myself, the secretary, at 876-317-9639, or the president himself, Shane Panton, 876-317-9643.
Getting the first dose is not an excuse not to wear the mask, not to social distance or physical distance, not to sanitize. Getting the first dose is not justification for deciding that you're going to resume the parties, the gatherings beyond the limits that have been established. The journey is to observe the protocols, take the second dose when it is time, and then we will resume some semblance of normalcy once we achieve herd immunity.
Persons with underlying conditions like cardiovascular illness need to take proper care of their health by ensuring they keep their doctor's visit and take their prescribed medication, especially considering the risk of complications from COVID-19. Learn more about some of the medical findings on the impact of COVID and how to keep safe in this next feature.
The Heart Foundation of Jamaica, as you all know, is a charitable organization which has been operating in Jamaica for 50 years now. And the Heart Foundation of Jamaica's mission is to reduce the prevalence of cardiovascular disease, that's diseases of the heart and blood vessels, in the Jamaican population. We are particularly interested in COVID-19 at the Heart Foundation of Jamaica, not only because we have been affected by all the economic, financial, social restrictions, but also because COVID-19 seems to have a particular impact in people with heart disease. And even in people who don't have heart disease, there are cardiac complications which develop as a result of COVID-19. One of the mandates of the Heart Foundation of Jamaica, one of the messages that we want to give is this: continue following up your medical conditions, continue screening for heart disease and the risk factors for heart disease.
In terms of the screening, the cost of doing the heart test or the ECG is $2,500. This would include meeting with the registered nurse, having the ECG done. If it's abnormal, it will be read by a cardiologist. It also includes a blood pressure check and the height and the weight check. We would also recommend a blood sugar test, which is $600, a finger prick, you get your result in 3 minutes, and a total cholesterol check, $1,200, which also is the same finger prick to your blood sugar check. So in all, maybe about just over $4,000 would give you a full screening. Based on that, we would then refer you, if necessary, to one of our several cardiologists or nutritionists if you need help with your diet.
As with other infectious diseases, the emphasis is on prevention, early detection and isolation, and also management of cases to prevent persons from having serious illness and death. What we have seen is that persons with comorbidities are 96 more times likely to have moderate and severe illnesses, and are over 100 times more likely than persons without chronic illnesses to die. Many have more than one comorbidities, with a combination of cardiovascular disease and diabetes being quite common. The most common comorbidity and risk factor for death is age over 60 years. Our national surveys have shown that a significant portion of our elderly persons have comorbid illnesses, of which cardiovascular disease is the most common. The Ministry of Health and Wellness have therefore prioritized prevention in these groups to prevent or reduce risk of exposure. Hence, the stay at home, wearing your mask, maintain physical distance. The Disaster Risk Management Act pulls these persons out in having the stay-at-home order for the elderly persons. And of course, regardless of whether you're at home or in the community, you have to maintain the precautions at all times. It is therefore important that these vulnerable groups ensure that they maximize their ability to fight the disease if they should become exposed. And this includes healthy lifestyle choices, exercise, diet, keeping well hydrated, rest and relaxation, but also care for your chronic illness with regular physical examinations, compliance with medication, and timely and appropriate screening are important in order to ensure that you're able to fight the disease if you should become exposed, and of course that you should seek care early. We have sought to increase persons getting continued care by increasing the use of telemedicine, by increasing the length of prescriptions, and by instituting a home delivery for medications for elderly persons.
It's the
11th staging of the JIS Heritage Competition. Students, show your national pride by entering the essay, poster and photo competition. Primary school students, enter the essay competition. Triumphant, proud and free. Use this phrase from the song Jamaica Land of Beauty to explain our nation's heritage and achievements. High school students, design a poster that best portrays the phrase triumphant, proud and free. And university students, capture a photo that depicts the phrase triumphant, proud and free. Submit your entries by October 31. Visit jis.gov.jm for competition guidelines. Triumphant, proud and free. The JIS Heritage Competition 2021.
The aviation industry globally is changing to meet the new demands of a freer and greater mobility of people, goods and services. Jamaica recognizes the benefits of the industry to economic development and has been making the necessary investment to allow the country to claim its market share. Watch as we explore this growth expansion mode.
With regards to general aviation, I think it is the first time for such a long time, Captain, that so much activity is going on in general aviation.
It's easy to let our imaginations run to just over a century ago, when the aviation industry was learning to fly. Today, while it flies much further, it's showing us how it underpins social networks, using its wings to bring economic growth, jobs, international trade and tourism much closer than ever before. It's truly the same for Jamaica's aviation industry, and the expansion of our air transport industry is non-stop. Safe to say that the future for local aviation is taking off. Having recognized how aviation advances mobility and impacts development, government has big plans to further develop our airports and aerodromes.
Our police officers are getting a first world facility at Ian Fleming.
Over in St. Mary, Transport Minister Robert Montague dangled the key for a newly constructed police station at the Ian Fleming International Airport to serve the airport and the neighboring communities. So if you're flying this route, your security has already been prioritized.
At Ian Fleming, we spent some $48 million on this building. And it is giving us 2,500 square feet of space, moving from 750 to 2,500 square feet for the hard-working men and women of the Jamaica Constabulary Force.
But that's just one step towards developing the Ian Fleming International Airport, because the Airports Authority of Jamaica is scheduled to spend an additional $100 million to create a new fire station and expand the sewage facility at this airport.
We can't be moving to expand and attract business, and we can't treat with the sewage. So we are making that investment.
Safe to say that for many Jamaicans, the Norman Manley International Airport may feel like a sufficient enabler of global business, a nicely packaged aviation feature. But developments for this airport are also taking off.
The Airports Authority is investing in Jamaica. We are investing some $550 million into the Norman Manley International Airport in doing some expansion work and also doing the seawall protection.
Added to that, there are also plans to extend the runway so that path where the wheels of Metal Bird meet the ground is marked to become just a bit longer. Of course, there are those from all corners of the world, tourists who just cannot wait to land on the brightly lit tarmac in the northern part of the country. The Sangster International Airport has become famously known as tourism's main entryway to Jamaica, and that runway too is scheduled to be lengthened, along with other major improvements for the area.
At the Donald Sangster International Airport, we are spending approximately $70 million. Let me put it out there quietly. $70 million. US dollars. To not only improve the runway and lengthen it, but most importantly to me as minister, to expand the arrivals hall.
Our travel continues to the southwest end of the island, to the parish reputed as the breadbasket of Jamaica, St. Elizabeth. Here you'll find the more private flights via the Lionel Densham Aerodrome, and this too is to undergo many developments to meet the future needs of aviation.
Now, a lot of persons never even realize that there is a little airport in St. Elizabeth. We are about to spend $100 million to overlay the runway and to put in a little terminal building, because that now is our investment in opening up the South Coast tourism.
This is our largest domestic airport, seated in the popular fast-paced streets of Kingston. And so far, about $20 million has been spent to fix the runway, put in a pilot's lounge, and purchase new firefighting equipment for the facility. But the upgrading continues.
Now we are moving to complete the fencing along the train line at Tinsupen.
Domestic flights continue to be facilitated on the airstrip of Ken Jones Aerodrome, found just 10 kilometers off the town of Port Antonio, especially seeing how pilots can now enjoy a newly built pilot's lounge.
We also are working to complete the fencing on that facility, and of course we have to paint it up. The chairman insisted that the thing have to look good so that when people pass you feel good and understand that Jamaicans are invested in Jamaica.
So while air, land and sea remains the pillars of modern mobility, it's safe to say that aviation has truly been at the forefront of the movement, grabbing the labels of reliability and good speed. And of course, all this is being continued with the plans our government has to develop the future of aviation in Jamaica.
There is so much available to us in general aviation, and we are making use of it.
Is your facility approved for COVID-19 testing? The Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce, through the JANAC Accreditation or Pre-Accreditation Approval Program, validates labs and point-of-care testing facilities such as medical centers. Accreditation safeguards the quality of test results and consumer well-being. Use a JANAC accredited or PAP approved facility for your tests, and let's defeat COVID-19 together. Contact the Jamaica National Agency for Accreditation, confirming competence, providing confidence in the marketplace.
We've come to the end of our journey through the pages of Jamaica Magazine for today. Be sure to join us again tomorrow for another show. Until then, continue to watch these and other programs by logging on to our website, jis.gov.jm, or subscribing to our YouTube channel. You can also find us on all the major social media platforms and through our mobile app that's Android and iOS compatible. On behalf of the entire production team, I'm Adrian Atkinson, urging you to take the COVID vaccine, wear your mask, wash your hands, and sanitize, and do stay safe.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.